So Kelis, she got she got removed from the biggest album in the country, the world right now. She was removed from it because of her complaints. And Apple and Tidal have removed the sample officially.
Hmm.
So it's like, unless you have the pressed vinyl or you downloaded that early, now every single version that you hear will be without the sample on the song Energy, without the
Do
Milkshake
you
sample.
think those versions are gonna get the StockX treatment?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
No,
Hmm.
it's gonna be very, very valuable just because of how swiftly
Oh, okay.
Beyonce got Kelis out the paint. Like I feel like it's sort of like the evidence that um things life comes at you fast, Kelis. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like even if you weren't getting the bag you wanted to get, you were definitely getting paid off that. Like like she intimates that she wants her reparations, but it's also like, yeah, you're credited, so you were actually getting paid, and now you're
I,
not.
I I still firmly believe that in this particular case, Beyonce assumed that she was doing the right thing by crediting Kelis.
Right,
And I
right.
feel like Beyonce was well aware that Kelis was not receiving what she needed to, so that was her homage to her as a woman. I mean, that's
Right,
me
right.
obviously putting a lot of sauce on it that may or may not be true, but I believe that Beyonce may have really thought that. The other thing that's interesting to me in this conversation is people are laughing at Kelis for the removal of the credit. I think that Carissa was pretty direct in what
Yeah,
she
she wanted
wanted and
that.
what she didn't want. She wanted that. She even led with insulting Beyonce in her
Yeah,
complaint. So
yeah,
she was, she used attacking language as well. So it's like, well, you really don't mess with me either. Like, I know I didn't
yeah,
get this right, but you don't mess with me. So, you probably don't want a phone call now because it didn't go about it. I didn't go about it the way you wanted me to. So,
yeah, yeah.
hence this resolve, which is exactly what Khalees wanted. So
Right.
here we are. But now where I'm little lost here now on the updates is, has Khalees responded to the removal?
I haven't heard. I
Yeah,
haven't
I
heard
haven't heard
a
anything.
response.
So yeah, I really don't know what's going on in her world, but you can't be mad at somebody, listening to what you said.
Yeah, and also, is there anything to respond to? Like now Beyonce is kind of given the, whether you interpret it as, "Hey, my bad, I'll remove it," or
Right.
I'm gonna take it off. Then you ain't want the money, cool. Like
Yeah.
whatever way you take that, like what does Khalees really have to say at this point? Like I feel like that just kind of snatches her out of the news cycle completely. If that was the result, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I think Khalees is just where she wants to be. And I still
Right.
say, I think she's right now, she's at a level of fame or she's contented in the way that this is,
Hmm.
she's running her farm. She's not interested in whatever the industry was bringing to her at the level that it was when she was dealing with those publishing issues. So
Right.
I think that this probably works for her.
And also, I mean, look, there is no black woman. I think there's a parallel here with the Monique situation that we talked about. There's
Hmm.
no black woman who will be the perfect messenger. I have not
Mm,
ever seen a black woman artist, whether it was Nina Simone, and don't get me wrong, Khalees is no Nina Simone, but whether it was Nina Simone or Monique or Khalees, there is no black woman who has criticized how art has underpaid or undervalued her and been considered a positive or good faith messenger of that very, very accurate truth. So they're going to always focus on someone like Khalees's attitude, her reputation for maybe not being the most easy to work with or facile. But then when everyone who's a black woman is not easy to work with, where does that really leave us?
mhm.
Right. So I do agree that like there's some there's some faith to be had in Beyonce being aware enough to credit.
Mhm.
But I think by the same token, like there's some credit to be given and some regard to be given to Khalees being like, hey, look, it's just not going to be pleasant for me to say this. It's never going to be pleasant for a black woman to say this because we're just not treated fairly in this
Mhm.
industry and for many reasons, right? Now, I think where this kind of evolved into I don't know. This is like truly confusing to me was like the other takes
Yeah.
about colorism.
The colorism one was the weirdest thing that I heard, and I just really I wonder about where everybody like is everybody okay? And I have to ask that question like multiple times a day because this insistence that this was colorism because Beyonce was taking something from Khalees as if Kelis has dealt with colorism in the same way that, say, you and I would.
Yikes.
I just thought that was so bizarre, and I would hope, and I don't think that Kelis would say something like that, because that would be an outrageous take.
No,
Like
no.
that would take a lot of audacity for her to feel that way.
Just
'Cause
look, just like they're the same color. Like
They
let's start
really are the
right
same
there.
color.
Let's start right exactly at the truth. They're the same color.
Just
They
two
are
light,
one drop rule.
yeah.
Like
two light-skinned folks that's not agreeing on something. But then there has to be some eyes on this also. Like you said, it's never gonna be enough when two Black women are having a dispute or speaking for themselves. But then if, Pharrell has been palpably silent. We haven't heard anything from him. And this is a war that like was created based on some of the moves that he made. So we don't even know what his version of this is. But what we do know is, again, maybe Pharrell positioned this in a way that Beyonce thought it was okay to move this way. And so now you have these two women that are at, at some kind of impasse of a sort, and it never had to be like this if he'd have been more forthcoming about what the real deal was.
Well, I saw a comment about this that I found particularly troublesome. So a friend of mine said that, what do we know about Pharrell? Like, it seems like if he had this kind of history that we would know about it, but he has this long career in the industry of working with lots of artists, etc. But I'm like, yo, just the blurred lines thing alone is enough to make me think that it's all fair game to him. So I think if someone thinks in that way, like that this is all fair game, like how I cut these checks, how I take these samples, then it's on the table that he could have done something unfair. Like, and I also don't believe that just because, like, we didn't know who Harvey Weinstein was for many years, right?
And for many of those years, many people really loved him, and they were willing to, they were willing to be around him. There's pictures with like Oprah and Harvey Weinstein.
Right. People would go to the mat. Gayle King too. People would go to the mat for Harvey Weinstein, knowing what they knew. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's not an airtight way to look at this. Like, oh well, if he had done something, we would know. And it's like, no, that's actually not true at all. It's the opposite is true. Like it's in fact always that we don't know the extent to which people are doing these things.
I actually even find that people that do those kinds of things, and this is kind of just taking it a step away from Pharrell because I don't want to be accusatory, but a lot of times people that move in shady ways, they're very tactical and particular about who they keep around them to show the side that they would never, they're like Pharrell's gonna be happy, around certain individuals so that he can get that cosign based on their reputations. That strengthens his position so that if there's ever a situation like this where he's being questioned, many people are saying like, Pharrell of all people, like, oh, what are y'all talking about? Like, that's the homie, or he would never. So again, you get these people, these puppets that are, that are used as pawns and weaponized to take on someone else's agenda. And that person could just sit back and watch. And then you have someone like Kelis, who essentially what she's going through is, what we see, that's like reactive abuse,
Yeah,
I mean, that's just really like, so she's jumping out and maybe looking crazy to many, but we don't know like the entirety of what, this whole situation is about beyond this sample, like what she went through. We don't know if she was like homeless. We don't know, we just don't know anything.
Right. That's a great point. And we can't take the reaction of someone who's been abused as like the indicator that they are now unreliable as a source, right? Like because they're reacting strongly, like then they don't get to react strongly because they were wronged. It's like, about 90% of motherfuckers when they get wronged are very like adamant about it. When people's check be late, like, you know what I mean? Like, have you ever met a friend whose check is late? It's like, yo, no, they fucking my check, man. Like, I got to call
people walk off the job like on some y'all gonna pay me. Where's my check? Like where it's like it was on that, so So and then you're looking in the window, like, looking through like the window treatment and stuff, and you seeing somebody banging on the thing, and you think they're crazy, like you ready to call the police on them. You don't know that they can't pay their rent. So,
exactly.
It's always, again, just good to not just jump out the window and just make assumptions, because you really don't know what people are going through. So I just don't tend to be comfortable just assuming when it comes to stuff like this, because I can understand how this could happen to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's at the Circle K or the Gap, like I'm trying to get my check. So
exactly.
I still side with Kelis on this, even even though there may be some thorny or prickly parts of the messenger, or how the message is delivered, it's like what we're talking about is fairness, right? And so fairness exists whether or not the person who's asking to be fairly treated is like the most endearing figure.
I just thought it was so interesting how some people were dismissing her simple like moral ask, like, hey, why couldn't you call me? Like, I know you.